Good afternoon. Senate Progress and Development Committee is now in session. Rob, call the roll, please.
Senators Williams,
Present.
Washington,
Present.
Moon, Nicola.
All right. So, looks like we have one bill we're hearing today. Correct? Okay. So, it looks like we're going to have House Bill number 2934. Representative Brad Chris, you are up front and center. Thank you.
Thank you, Senators. Thank you, Senators, for having me over today on this bill. It's a good bipartisan piece of legislation. It got out of the House with 121 votes. It's a bill about a tremendous public asset in the St. Louis region that employs thousands of Missouris, responsible for about $200 million in revenue to the state, and attracts about 650,000 people to our state every year. It's basically a bill that consolidates the bureaucracy of these two boards that run this entity, which I'll go over, and it creates a financial path forward so they can sustain it without state input. And it also creates a financial relationship between the state if they did need financial support in the future. And so what it does is the CVC and the RSA run the convention center and the dome, and that was put in place in the 90s when the Rams were in town, and it was a completely different governmental structure, and we had state aid to help that facility. None of that exists anymore, so these two entities, the CVC and the RSA, have asked for this merger. They voted on with their individual boards and asked that we in Jeff City merge these two boards so they can sustain the path forward in the future. And so that new board will look like this, and I worked with my Democratic colleagues in the House to make sure that this format was good. But it's 5 appointments by the governor, 5 by the city, and 5 by the county of St. Louis. And the reason that is that the hotel motel tax that's charged in the city and the county of St. Louis financially support this. So you want to have input from both of those regions. Of the 5 governor appointments, which is what we worked on in the House with a couple of Democrat colleagues in the city of St. Louis, 2 of the governor appointments have to be from the county and 2 have to be from the city, and then 1 at large, and the governor still has the chairman appointment. It creates a convention district for the new tax structuring, so it allows them to place a ticket assessment fee and up to a 2% sales tax on their products, merchandise, beverages, food, everything of that nature. Again, it's I think the most responsible way to do it. It's a voluntary tax that a consumer can choose to go to the Dome or an event at the Dome and buy that big soda or that pretzel or whatever it might be. And then it allows for that a ticket assessment fee, which almost every other convention center or sports team in the state utilizes right now, whether it's the Blues or the Chiefs or the Rams. Or, I'm sorry, the Blues, the Chiefs, or the Cardinals. And then it clarifies how that tax revenue is distributed, which is another key piece of this. And so right now it goes, a portion of it goes to the county of St. Louis, which then it has no spending authority on it without CVC approval. So it's kind of, again, a government bureaucracy nightmare. And that kitties up to almost $40–50 million, which they can't access at the county. So it releases those funds for the county to be able to utilize that. But going forward, those funds go straight to the new CVC RSA structure. And so there's no county bypass there. And so I think it cleans that a lot. And then lastly, it creates this relationship between the state and the Department of Economic Development. So if they do seek appropriation in the future, which obviously would have to go through the entire legislative process, that relationship is in place. So again, pretty bipartisan bill with 120 votes out of the House, 121 votes, good governance, consolidate bureaucracy, give a solid foundation and a path forward to this huge public asset so we can stop talking about it up here.
Yeah, thank you. So, Representative, before we call up any witnesses or check with the committee for any questions, I do want to clarify a couple things for the committee and for anyone listening. This will not impact any other sports authority. Oh, I'm sorry. Never mind. I'll wait for that. I'll wait. And then this would also unlock funding that would ultimately go to a county that was paid out by the county taxpayers in the hotel tax.
Correct. Yeah, so it would release that fund I was talking about, I think it's up to 45 million now. It would release those funds for general revenue expense. St. Louis County needs it.
And is there a budget deficit with St. Louis County at all?
Yeah, pretty large deficit.
Okay.
Might know somebody that could work on that in the future. And then so that will release those funds for obviously the county executive with the approval of the council to utilize. But then going forward, these funds will be directed directly to the CDC.
Yeah, and then just speak to the board dynamic. So this was a mutual agreement between the Regional Sports Authority and the CVC to combine their boards, correct?
Yes, I think that vote was in December. There's someone here that can speak directly to that, but they voted on that, and then that's when we started working on the legislation.
Okay, thanks. I just wanted to clarify that. And then last thing, this will be a one-time, I don't want to say appropriation, but transfer of funds to the county.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, with that, any questions of members of the committee? Senator Washington. Vice Chairwoman, Senator Washington.
One, I just want to clarify, you made a comment that about funding or something for the, whatever y'all call the dome now.
Yes. How they're going to.
Well, you said something about, like, it sounded like a negative comment about not being able to be funded by the state anymore. Could you say because the Rams or something?
Well, they're not. It wasn't a negative comment. They're just not funded by the state anymore.
Okay, and they're not funded because we paid your loan off, right? Right.
Not my loan, but yes,
but the
the state
loan
paid
for
it
that
off.
facility.
Yes, the state paid it
Okay.
off. Yes.
And then Mr. Chair mentioned Sports Authority, but this is actually not a combination of your Sports Authority and your visitors. This is two different Convention and Visitors Bureaus, what other people will call, right?
Yes, correct.
Because your Sports Authority will continue to be a separate government entity, correct?
No, this will merge it. The Regional Sports Authority and the CVC will be merged into one.
Okay,
Yes.
so your Sports Authority, you know, because I'm on the other side, you know, we let sports people do sports stuff and we let convention people do convention stuff because one is not the same. So you're saying that the Sports Authority that you currently have will now be part of your Convention and Visitors Bureau?
Yes.
Okay. Can you show me the language where it says Sports Authority? Because all I'm seeing is that you're merging multiple Convention and Visitors Bureaus.
Let me pull the language up. I could have that backwards, Senator.
And that would be fine because this continues to say membership of the Regional Convention and Visitors Commission, which is a separate entity from your Sports Commission.
Yeah, and someone might be able to speak to that. I think we're renaming it the Regional Convention and Visitors Commission is what we're renaming it. That's
So you're going to merge your two?
The new entity will be, yes, the regional.
So your new entity will merge the duties of your Sports Authority with your Convention and Visitors Bureau Authority?
Yes, ma'am.
But it will only be for St. Louis City and St. Louis County to do that merger?
Yes, this is very specific to those two boards in St. Louis.
Okay. Well, let me ask you this then. What all do you have now? Because this is only merging two entities. And so what I'm trying to figure out is St. Louis County does not have their own Convention and Visitors Bureau?
No, we do. It was set up in the 90s to run different.
Well, I don't need the backdrop. And I ain't trying to be rude, but
Sure.
So right now, do you have a St. Louis City Convention and Visitors, a St. Louis County Convention and Visitors, and a Sports Authority as well?
No, we just.
Who does your conventions for the county now? Because when my sorority had something with you all, we did talk to a Conventions and Visitors Bureau outside. I mean, that was in the county. So that's why I'm confused.
I'm not sure if the county has a separate entity, but this is regarding the CVC, which is just in charge.
You gotta
Yeah.
let him talk. You can't be interrupting my question. I'm being nice to him because he looked like a Ken doll.
It's kind of weird how it's set up, but one entity runs the dome and one entity runs the convention center, and it's the same complex, same parcel.
So are you only trying to do this for the dome, or are you trying to do this for your region?
Well, it's for the region because it
Well,
affects the
that's
whole-
why I'm asking you, because that makes a difference for me.
Yeah.
And how because I don't, and maybe we can talk offline, but I'll just give you what we have.
Sure.
We have a sports authority that handles all of our stadiums and places where sports are likely to be. Now, of course, we lost the Kings when I was in high school, but that facility is still under the Sports Authority as well. And then we have the Convention and Visitors Bureau, which does not do anything with, they don't have the authority to control the sports, primarily because our Sports Authority also owns our stadiums.
Right.
So what you're saying is, I don't know who owned the Ram Stadium, but I'm gonna call it the original name, since y'all changed the name about 10 times, the TWA Dome. But my point is, you don't. Who owns it now?
Well, the city will now, but
Who
this
owns it
board
today,
control.
though?
I think the state.
No, the state doesn't own it. We just paid y'all's mortgage.
RSA.
See, in Kansas City, we didn't ask y'all to pay our mortgage. We paid it ourselves because it's ours. So
The RSA
this is going to merge.
The RSA
and I'm not good with acronyms, and so that's why I'm asking specifically. So this is going to merge your sports, whoever has been doing the sports side of the dome. I'm not sure what actually goes on in there. I guess my question is this just for the dome, or you all as a city have are very blessed, and you have multiple professional sports places.
Yep.
So will this not affect, what is it called, like the Enterprise Center or anything like that?
No,
This
this
is all just for one place?
Yes, this is very specific to the dome and the convention center.
Okay, that's what I need to know. Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Any other additional questions of the committee? Now, Senator Moon, before you go, we want to make sure if it's a question pertaining to the CVC or the RSA, we should get an expert up here that actually do that every day. Senator Washington likes to give Representative Chris a hard time, and he has that water bottle on the desk too, which is out of. Yeah, it looks good.
Oh shit!
So would it be
I don't know
okay
the rules.
to allow us to call a witness up or someone that can
Let
speak
me ask
to
the
the expert?
question, and if you can't answer it, then
Thank you.
we'll forward it to them. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Representative, for the explanation of the bill.
Yes.
Since we don't have those in my neck of the woods, the
Sure.
sports authorities, if you will just briefly as you can, give me a history of where we got to today to require this merger. What took place to make it happen?
Yeah, so kind of going back on that, in the 90s when we recruited the Rams here at the Dome, the RSA, again, owns and operates the Dome. And then there's a large convention center attached to the Dome. It's a massive complex if you've ever been to St. Louis. And they had to have different lease agreements and lease arrangements with the NFL and the Rams. And so they had two different entities set up. The CVC runs the convention center and all these conventions that come in, whether it be a religious service or a robotics, event or whatever it might be. And then the Rams, have that lease agreement with the Dome. And then there was state funding in that, which I'm not completely, aware of. I was a teenager when the Rams came here. But but that state funding's been again paid off, and the Rams are obviously no longer here. We don't have that lease agreement with the NFL, and actually that lease agreement ending has been really good for the Dome because they had to block out every fall for the NFL. And some of these conventions booked 2-3 years out, so they couldn't book into the fall. So a tremendous kind of uplift to the area. And then since that's all ended and the payments and the bonds are paid off, it's created kind of just an awkward environment now to operate it because it's kind of operating as one now without the Rams there. And so these two boards have asked to merge those and create a better environment to operate in the future.
So it's to create an additional funding mechanism, essentially.
Well, yes, and that does create that.
Okay.
If the board votes on it to create that SID, again, specifically around those convention borders, they can put that assessment fee on their tickets and a potential 2% sales tax increase just in that facility.
And so the funds would be generated primarily from the users of those facilities.
Yes, and most of those are out-of-state users.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Thank you. Any witnesses in support? I need you to hold tight for a second.
Thank you.
State your name and your purpose.
Good afternoon. I'm Brad Dean. I am President and CEO of the St. Louis Convention and Visitors Commission. And Mr. Chairman, Senators, thank you for the privilege of coming before you today in support of House Bill 2934. And our role as the Convention and Visitors Commission, it might not surprise you to know that our role is simply to promote, protect, and improve the visitor economy of St. Louis City and County. And we are the official designated tourism promotional agency for both the city and the county. This bill will allow us to be more efficient, more competitive, and ultimately to help the state's economy as well as our regional economy. As Representative Chris spoke to earlier, a big part of our role is not only to promote people, encouraging them to come to the state of Missouri, but also to manage two key regional assets, the Americas Center, our convention center, and the Dome, the adjoining stadium. Two facilities adjoined that today serve over 40 groups annually, generate over $200 million of economic impact, help sustain 42,000 jobs, and most notably deliver $14 million of taxes to the state itself, not to mention local and federal taxes. This bill does a couple things for us. Number one, if you think about it today, you have two adjoining facilities, one owned by the city, one owned by the Regional Sports Authority. Two separate boards, one simply focused on this side of the facility, one focused on the region, including the convention center. This bill provides unified ownership and unified governments. One owner, one board of commissioners. The second thing it does, as Representative Chris spoke to, is it modernizes the funding mechanisms. The user fee on a bottle of water, a box of popcorn, a hot dog, are already used at other facilities, as alluded to, like Energizer Park, where we play soccer, at Cardinal Stadium, where the baseball games occur, Enterprise Center, where the basketball games last weekend and the hockey games this weekend will occur. This modernizes that. I suspect that the people sitting in your chair years ago, in my chair, didn't worry about that because at the time it was for the Rams, so we would have had to have done what the NFL wanted. Today, football is only 10% of the activity in the Dome, and so this modernizes that. It also makes a significant investment in the community going forward because the hotel tax that was referred to earlier is currently, there's an unused portion of that. Those accrued proceeds that are sitting now accomplishing nothing will go back to the county, and then going forward, the portion of that tax that's not pledged to any other bond will then be put back to where the voters originally voted it for, and that is the Dome. That, we believe, will actually make us a better promoter, and it will help us to be a better steward of these facilities. And, of course, I don't need to explain to you, if you do nothing, that's a decision as well. But doing nothing today, not voting this bill forward, would just force us to try to manage these facilities without the dollars that we need to maintain them, which ultimately puts us back in the position of someday going back to the city and county and asking for more money, and the state asking for more money. This will actually allow us to be a better steward of these facilities. So we come here today in support of House Bill 2934. We believe this is an important move forward for our region that makes us more competitive, helps us to grow the visitor economy. If I may, I'd like to add a couple of points I think clarify what Representative Chris spoke to earlier in response to the senator's question. And I'm new to Missouri, so I may not understand everything about the difference between St. Louis and Kansas City, but I've watched the Kansas City model for quite a time, and you have a very, very successful Convention and Visitor Bureau and Sports Commission. What's different in St. Louis is the regional sports authority that's in the legislation here does not market or sell sporting events. They are the owner and steward of the Dome. There is a separate entity, a nonprofit entity, not a government entity. It's a separate nonprofit entity called the St. Louis Sports Commission. That is the entity that leads the recruitment of sporting events. So they actually work very closely with the Kansas City Sports Commission. So if you think about it, it's a bit of a confusing name because the Regional Sports Authority is the owner and manager of the facility. This legislation combines the Regional Sports Authority and the CVC, the Convention and Visitors Commission. This legislation does not impact the St. Louis Sports Commission whatsoever. And so in our role as the official promotional agency for the St. Louis City and St. Louis County, this will now put all of those resources and all of the emphasis for promotion and management of these two facilities under one Board of Commissioners. Thank you again for your support. We encourage your vote for House Bill 2934.
Thank you for that, Brad. Any questions of members of the committee? Senator Washington.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. So I just want to get some clarification a little bit. So if I was bringing 20,000 people for a convention in St. Louis, you're saying that right now that would be a little convoluted because the only place you have is whatever it's called now, the Dome, the America Center, whatever. So you're saying that I would have to contract with 2 different entities to do that?
No, Senator, if you were bringing let's say a convention, a meeting, a huge
Right.
worship gathering,
I'm giving you the
like
number,
Church of
20,000.
God, something that you would come to the organization I lead, the St. Louis Convention and Visitors Commission, which represents the city and the county. Now, if that was a 20,000 person sporting event, you would probably start with the St. Louis Sports Commission, a separate organization.
So right now, if I'm not doing a sports event, you're telling me that if I need both the America Center and the Dome, because with 20,000 people, I'm going to need both, that I don't have to go to 2 separate entities to get my contracts to do my conference.
Well, you would contract with our organization that manages both facilities, but ultimately, those 2 facilities are owned by 2 different entities. There are 2 separate boards, so I have to be your liaison to the Regional Sports Authority if you're going to use the Dome. If you were selling me...
But I'm not using the Dome for sports, but I am using the Dome.
Doesn't matter.
And I'm giving you an exact example.
Yeah.
So I guess my question is, if I can already do that, why do I need to do this if I can already use all of it anyway, if I bring a conference that's that big?
Well, here's a good example why. Let's talk about cost, for example. If you tell me your group needs a special deal, you need a discount, you tell me you got a better deal in Indianapolis, I can't offer that deal on my own. I have to go to the Regional Sports Authority.
Well, I will
and
tell
get
you that
permission.
you did, though.
Okay.
You did offer that deal because Alpha Kappa Alpha is coming there next year, and you did beat out Indianapolis,
Well-
and you did beat out Cleveland, and they are coming there, and they will use all of that facility with about 11,000 women. So that's why I'm just trying to get some clarity.
Sure.
And you had mentioned one was not a government entity, but it was like a nonprofit or something.
That is the Sports Commission.
Okay, so
if
that
you
is
were booking
the
a
sports commission,
sporting
as
event-
we see it, is quasi-government because the governor appoints those people, and we had to. Well, I just looked it up, and I know that a girl I went to college with named Leah is on that because I voted for Leah to be on that, and that is a sports. That it's a sports it's a sports authority type of thing. We just say Jackson County Sports Authority, which is a government entity, and our Convention and Visitors Bureau is quasi-government because it's with our city. And I'm not being combative here. I'm just trying to understand.
It's 2 different structures.
Yeah, and so the second thing is on the funding. Is any of that $780 million going to be used for this? The settlement with the National Football League?
The Rams settlement money, there was a portion, I believe, $70 million that was allocated to the Regional Sports Authority for the Dome. That's a separate board than the one I work for, so they have control over how those dollars would be spent. Now,
And I'm playing devil's advocate because I know I have people that are on the other side of the aisle that would have that question. That why would you ever, because you mentioned, and probably don't mention anymore, that you might have to come back to the state and ask for additional funding, or you're going to go to the city and the county and ask for funding when you have almost $1 billion. By now it's probably $1 billion because you ain't spent none. In Kansas City we don't hold on money. We would have been done spending that. But my point is, are you not using $780 million to do something, and then you're going to ask the folks who are user tax to pay to pay for the upkeep of those facilities?
no, actually, it's a really good question. The 700, the number I keep hearing is 700 million, so whatever it is,
780.
780,
780.
70, so roughly 10% has been allocated to the Dome. The remaining 90% will
they'll
be
figure
used
it
for other uses as deemed by our local government. That 70 pays for less than half of the deferred maintenance on the Dome today.
Oh,
So for
yummy.
every dollar
That's
that
better.
we're getting from the Ram settlement, there's more than $1 of maintenance needed. This bill helps us address that. If you don't take action on this, if you were to vote this down, then we have no choice but to go back to the city and the county and maybe the state and ask for more money. And we should also clarify.
But
the
we won't have no
dollars we're
ownership
talking
on
about
it, even though we
are-
paid the mortgage.
Well, the dollars we're talking about are hotel taxes, so those are largely paid by visitors choosing to come to St. Louis. And again, just I hope I've made it clear, your sports commission, it's a little different structure, but they do the same thing. in St. Louis, the St. Louis Sports Commission.
So I just want to
receives
get
no
language
government
clear
money.
because people are listening. Our sports authority is who owns our facility. Our sports commission is a nonprofit regional entity that includes Missouri and Kansas. So we don't call those who control our stadiums a commission. They are a sports authority. Our sports commission, just so we can have language clear, we also have a sports commission that will work with FIFA 2026 to do that, and they have to contract with the authority who owns Arrowhead. But thank you for that explanation. Now I have one other question. You mentioned something about the county being able to receive funds with this, which I think is great. Don't get me wrong, the county is growing. You're the largest county in the state. But you didn't mention anything about the city getting some money.
Well, the city's taxes are pledged to the convention center. So
the county's taxes will not be pledged to the convention center. I just want to be fair here. If we're doing this to make it easier, which I totally agree that you should do this. I'm from Kansas City. I got 18th and Vine. Every building at 18th and Vine got their own board. And I wish that they all had one super place that would control all of it, because every single building in that historic district has its own board. But I don't like this if the city of St. Louis is not going to also benefit financially outside of taxes. If we're doing something to create more money for the county, but not doing something that's going to create more money for the city, then I'm telling you, it won't be me, but there is another little lady who sits in one of these seats who's going to fight that to the death. Mm-hmm. And so is there a reason why you didn't mention that the city was going to also be able to benefit?
Well, again, there's an attorney here who's also going to speak today as a witness.
They think they know everything.
He can speak to the specifics, but I can tell you this, it will be at least 2040 before the city's bonds are retired. But to be clear, the city will definitely benefit from this.
That's why
because
I need
we're going to bring
that.
more people to downtown St. Louis, and by default, their taxes are going to grow up. So this benefits the city and the county, but today, the only money that's available from those taxes is in St. Louis County, and they have a surplus. There's dollars being collected that aren't pledged. The city's dollars are pledged for quite some time.
Okay. And you may not be able to answer this last question, but I'm going to ask you anyway because I didn't get to ask my favorite Ken down there. And I'm not being offensive. I'm not violating any HR. He knows that's our own little joke. And in sexual harassment, it has to not only be offensive to him, but also to a reasonable person. So the people that get appointed by the city, why are we so specific on those people? Those appointed by the governor, you have hotel and motel, you have 2 from the county and 2 from the city. But why those that are appointed by the city, who probably has a closer relationship with the people that live in the area, why can't they just appoint a resident, and as opposed to they have to appoint someone in those industries? Why do we not flip the script on that? Because I could say that if I was the mayor, I'd be kind of PO'd if I got to appoint a hotel person. I have to appoint a tourist attraction person, which what tourist attraction is that going to be? But we'll talk about that offline. And I would probably be a little bit upset that I can't pick who I want, but the governor gets to pick who he wants. And I'm saying this out of somebody who loves our governor, but I have the Kansas City, Missouri Police Board. And I have the largest amount of police police departments in my district. And not one person in my entire district in the south part where East Jackson, Kansas City is on our Kansas City, Missouri Police Board, and we are the most affected. And I say that because the governor is taking recommendations for that, where the mayor would know who would be the best people. So why is the mayor has to be specific in their appointments, but the governor gets to pick who he wants?
Yeah.
And you may not know the answer to that, and that's fine.
I think, Senator, knowing that these 15 people will be the ones that can fire me, I'm going to let somebody that has a much higher pedigree answer that question, because
Okay,
I don't
you.
have a specific. I can tell you there was a lot of discussion in the House, and Representative Chris may want to speak to this, over the fact that you have 2 different boards right now, one for the Regional Sports Authority, one for the CVC.
Yeah, that part I
And you
get,
have to-
and I'm okay with that. But I don't like
yeah.
the fact that the mayor is mandated as to who he or she can
Yeah.
appoint, and the governor can appoint anybody just as long as they got an address
I
there.
think the merging of these 2 that had different board structures and appointments, they were trying to figure out how to take 1 + 1 and make it 3. But
I'd be
others
great
to
if we
fit them.
flipped that. Or I'll work with the senator from District 4.
Yeah. So, so we clear, in light of time, do we have anyone in opposition to the bill? Okay, so no one in opposition. The only other person we have is the attorney, correct? That's fine. Okay. So is the attorney gonna still get paid if he don't testify? Okay. And Jewel, did you have anything you wanted? Okay.
Jewel Paddock, lobbyist on behalf of the RSA Regional Sports Authority. You've been speaking so eloquently about, just to speak in favor of the bill. I don't want to rehash, but if you have any questions about the Sports Authority, I'd be happy to answer. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Jewel. Okay.
I'm
and
going to
then-
leave testimony for our chairman here.
Okay,
Thank you, Mr.
perfect. Thank you.
Thank you,
Nice
Mr. Chairman.
haircut, by the way, man.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And I'm Steve O'Loughlin. I'm board chair of the CVC. So we're up here together. So RSA, that's the entity that owns the Dome. CVC is the entity that manages America's Center, the Convention Center, and the Dome. So this is a conversation that I've been having for a couple years with the RSA in terms of how can we work better together. We have one complex. We've got the Dome, we've got the Convention Center, but we have two boards. And so the conversation was, how do we work better together? As these conversations move forward, it was, how do we work together as one? It is one complex. It's the Dome. It's the Convention Center. And that's really the spirit of this legislation, for single governance over one entity.
Any questions from members of the committee?
Just real quick,
Senator
because I don't know
Washington.
if I got this clear. Who owns the America Center?
America's Center is owned by the city.
And the Dome is owned by the authority.
Similar to
Okay.
you, so Regional Sports Authority. So the RSA is, I mean, the Dome is really, it's owned by a piece of paper. It's the RSA. There's no money coming in. State paid it off. So unless we do this legislation, no, so it's paid off, but I mean, there's no money coming in for deferred maintenance. So there's $155 million of deferred maintenance on the Dome. There's $90 million in the bank, so there's obviously a gap. So this is a mechanism of combining the boards for one purpose and a path forward for deferred maintenance and moving us into the future.
And to be fair with my history at the RSA since 2005, there was never any monies committed by the city, the county, or the state for maintenance. There was a money committed for the bonds, which were paid, but there were never any monies committed for maintenance. So that's why you have a fairly large deferred maintenance. It wasn't like they were bad managers. There just was never any money dedicated to maintenance of the facility.
I'll just talk real quick, just a couple stats about the importance of this facility. So the Dome, even since the Rams have left, all of our major conventions utilize a Dome. Without the Dome, we're not in the large convention business. St. Louis led the United States last year in revenue per available room growth by 7.4%. The United States actually contracted, if you take the growth 25 versus 24, by 0.4%. So St. Louis, with all the statistics that we talk about, our hotel industry, St. Louis City, St. Louis County, actually came in first. Number one, 7.4% growth, 25 versus 24. In 26, we're January and February, ton of events at the Dome and America Center. We are 16.3% through February. U.S. is 2.4%, and it's because of these facilities. It's a unique facility that we have a Dome connected to a convention center. It's a big asset.
So, Steve, hold that thought, because we do have a couple motions we need to do because some members have to leave.
I can stay.
Okay,
I can-
so I would like to go into executive session. Could I get a second?
Mr.
Or
Chairman.
do you want to ask a question?
Yeah, I would like
Okay.
to ask one question
Senator
for
Moon.
clarification, if I may. Thank you
Oh,
for
absolutely.
indulging me. So with the Convention Center and the Sports Authority, or the stadium, they're actually having uses of both of those facilities, so there is some income. Am I understanding that the income, particularly from the stadium, is not sufficient enough to maintain the upkeep? And so merging these two will, actually, one's making more money than the other, so they're going to, and with a tax increase, is going to supply sufficient amounts to maintain the facility. Am I reading that right?
You're spot on. You're
And-
spot on, yeah.
And then with the taxes, one is a use tax, or a sales tax, I should say, and that's just going to be implemented. The new convention center can do that alone. There will be another, by way of a vote, where the people can approve was this the sales tax that the voters would approve too?
So the only tax, it's just going to be like on a smart water or a hot dog or a ticket. That's the only tax. So, I mean, you see that at a Starbucks and that kind of thing.
Well, which one do the voters approve?
I'm going to step down. We'll have the lawyer.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman, for taking so much time, but this is something important, I think, to me here. Thanks.
Thank you. Patrick Eckelkamp with Hush Blackwell representing the CVC here. And absolutely no one wants to hear from a lawyer, especially when you're trying to move fast. So I appreciate that. Thank you. And Senator, to answer your question, yeah, so we modeled this after the SID Act and the TDD Act. And under Missouri law, you have to have a vote to do a sales tax. And so with this tax, it would just be within the boundaries of the convention district, which is property that's leased, managed, or owned by the CVC. So again, it would just be a self-contained sales tax. And so under Missouri law, if you don't have any registered voters within that area, then it will be the property owners that would do that vote. Okay. So that would be, well, currently the property is owned by the RSA and the city of St. Louis. And so representatives from those entities would vote for the tax, which would then be imposed. If that answers your question, Senator. Perfect. Thank you. And happy to answer any questions.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
That was great. So with that, I would like to, in light of some members that have to leave. Oh, I'm sorry, Mark. Come on up. I do. And also, if you didn't submit a witness form, please make sure you do that.
Hello, I will be very brief. Mark Dalton with the Mid-America Carpenters Regional Council. Just want to go on record in support of this bill. We know that, especially in the St. Louis region, the tourism, convention, and sports infrastructure is vital to the area and the state. Economic driver, job creator. Currently, the governing structure and funding infrastructures are fragmented, outdated. This bill helps bring those into alignment and put the region into a position where we can compete for some of those national major events. So would appreciate your support. Take any questions.
Any questions for Mark Dalton?
Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, real quick, so I can get registered, real quickly, Jorgen Schleimer on behalf of Greater St. Louis, Inc., and on behalf of St. Louis Area Hotel Association. I fill out forms in support. Thanks.
Thank you, Jorgen. Okay, so anybody that needs to be heard so they can get their retainer. Okay, so we're all good. Thank you. I move that we go into executive session. Do I have a second, please? All right, thank you. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Second. So I want to move that House Bill number 2934 before the committee. Do I have a second? Received a second. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it. Yes. The bill is before the committee. Yeah, the bill's before the committee. I would like for the committee to consider voting this out. It's pretty urgent in terms of getting it on the calendar. We want to get this done for many reasons that were spoken before the committee. Also, it's going to allow us to be able to address a fund that would not have any direction or dedication if this is not done. So I'd like for the committee to consider voting this out just so we can have a fair opportunity to get it before the body in a timely fashion. So, any conversation with that? Okay. Yes.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you, Senator.
I don't have any concerns with going into exec right now. I do just want to. I know I kind of popped in here a little bit late, but I heard the Senator Washington's concerns about the appointments, and so just wanted to see if the representative is willing to work with her on, somehow it could be like done locally or something. So just wanted to, yeah. Okay. So, thank you.
Thank you for that. So. With that, I would like for this to be considered and hopefully voted out of committee. So, Secretary, call the roll.
Senators Williams.
Aye.
Washington. Lewis.
Aye.
Moon. Nicola. Okay. Washington.
No, and only because I wanted to make sure it passed. But I want to have that conversation, so I don't want to be upstairs where someone is saying how wonderful it is and it went out unanimous when I know I have some concerns. Thank you.
Okay. With that, we look like we're going to be voted out of committee for one. Thank you so much. With that, I'd like to make a motion to go out of executive session. Second, thank you. Thanks to committee. With that, I would like to make a motion to adjourn. Second. Got adjourn. Got adjourn. Thank you. That concludes the meeting on progress and development. Thank you very much.